for the first time since Israeli forces pushed over the border. And Hezbollah said that it also destroyed 3 Israeli tanks with rockets near a border town there as well. So, you know, you still have Israel bombing Gaza and killing people in Gaza. You still have Israel bombing Beirut, killing people in Beirut. You have this ground invasion going forward, which, again, the U.S. greenlit and actively encouraged. And you have us all in wait-and-see mode about just how large a provocation and an escalation we will get from Israel vis-a-vis Iran.
Yeah, let's put the next one up there because this is important. It's a decent analysis, and it actually shows. This was the first time, actually, that Israel and Hezbollah came into direct fighting in Hezbollah, and I think we should learn something from the fact that almost immediately, according to Israel, all 8 people were killed, you know, in ambush. This illustrates that in the actual ground war, the IDF has not performed all that well. They've been relying heavily on air power. Now, you can only get away with that to a certain extent, and you can definitely in Gaza if you want to just level the whole place. But in Lebanon, we're talking about a very, very different enemy, and this is something we've tried to talk about here quite a bit. The Hezbollah, yes, you know, their regional commanders are dead. Their infrastructure is certainly taken a major hit, but their military arsenal is significant. And if you don't think that the IRGC hasn't immediately sent over experienced battle commanders who've been fighting for almost 20 years or so between Iraq and Syria and now here, and to replace these people, then, you know, you're an idiot. And that's the problem, is that they don't just have rockets. They have actually very sophisticated military equipment. They have a fighting force which is battle-tested for almost a decade. And also, they've got Iran and Syria, which themselves are sovereign nations, which are being attacked by Israel, which have a direct interest in making sure that their borders allow weapons to flow through seriously, if not outright just giving it to them themselves. So the fact that you had these 8 people from the IDF who were already killed just demonstrates like what a real invasion would look like. If anything, it's probably why they almost immediately started retaliate bombing in southern Beirut. But the more that their troops want to create some sort of so-called buffer zone, you know, in the country, they're going to pay for it in blood. And I think that's really what this underscores. This is not Hamas. It's a far more sophisticated force. The IDF has known this. They're afraid of it. That's part of the reason that they had to call up a lot of reservists. And, you know, these were some of the more elite fighters actually in the IDF. If you look at the biographies of those that were killed, so that should tell you
they were special forces.
Exactly. So it will tell you when you know when's the last time America lost 8 people 8 people from special forces? It doesn't happen all that often in an actual ground invasion. You know, especially maybe if they're shot down in a helicopter or something. But it just demonstrates that the parity of the fighting force is much higher, and you should be afraid because this would also cause significant problems in Israel. If hundreds, thousands of people in the IDF start dying, this is a small nation, and they don't have all that many people. On top of that, their economy is suffering dramatically. I mean, who knows? Hundreds of billions of shekels have already been lost on the war. Expanding it and creating all of this domestic turmoil and economic problems, like this is major. This is a major issue now that we're almost a year removed from October 7th. It's kind of insane that they got themselves into this situation. But of course, that's the project of their national leader. And at a certain point, he clearly has some Democratic support too. I just talked about
no
previously.
doubt about it.
So,
No, I mean, there's a lot of national support for this program. Obviously there have been protests about wanting a deal in order to bring the hostages home, which, but in terms of the hawkishness, the attacks on Hezbollah, as far as I can tell, in terms of the public polling, this is widely supported across the Israeli political spectrum. And, Sagar, you made this point when we were talking on debate night, like, where's all the rhetoric about the hostages? That's just gone.
It's gone, yeah.
Like, they've outlived their usefulness. Sorry for the horrible, crass nature of that language. But to Bibi Netanyahu, he doesn't care if they live or die. Does not care. In fact, for him, may be more convenient if they end up dying, because then they can't come back and talk about the way that they were abandoned by the Israeli government. And that's what happened. I mean, extraordinarily enough, I don't know if you saw this, Sagar, Nancy Pelosi went on CNN with Dana Bash, and she was asked about the attacks in Lebanon and the attacks, the coming attacks on Iran and all of that. And she said, I think Bibi should be using his might to get the hostages home. Hey, how about that? Remember when you pretended like that was a key priority? Not so much anymore. And, for the broader long-term outlook for Israel, what does this look like for them? Their credit rating was downgraded again.
Yep.
Purportedly, the goal of these attacks in Beirut and this ground invasion in Lebanon is so that Israelis can return to northern Israel, where they, have been evacuated, they haven't been there since post October 7th. Well, this is no way to accomplish that. I mean, you're just creating more hostilities. You're just creating more danger in that region. What the mayors of those towns wanted was a ceasefire deal so that there would be, coexistence and at least some limited amount of peace so that people could go home. Like, there's no end in sight. There's no immediate timeline for Israelis in that region to be able to return. You have enormous burdens on the workforce because of the continued call-ups of reserves to go and fight on how many fronts even at this point. You're in Gaza, you're in the West Bank, you're in Lebanon, you're starting a war with Iran, et cetera. And you're increasingly, even though the U.S. supports you wholeheartedly, you are increasingly isolated in terms of the world stage, where this fading superpower is increasingly becoming one of your only friends. So, there's no long-term planning here. It's an ideological project. It's a political project for Bibi. It's a project of revenge, and that's where we are. And because the U.S. is too weak or actively supports this direction, it's all completely enabled and greenlit and funded and supplied and made possible by us and our tax dollars. Yep. So we're all just waiting with bated breath to see what happens next.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.